Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people and people who are doing very well for themselves. Derek Ryan is a man who, well, has been in show business his entire life, and he seems to be taking the UK by storm. From his Irish roots to touring the UK, he's going to be coming to a theatre near you in 2015, and I'm delighted to say he joins us in the studio now. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well.
Congratulations, mate. I mean, it's going very well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, I hit the country scene here in Ireland about 4 years ago now, and I haven't looked back. You know, it's just been an absolutely brilliant journey, and country is kind of enjoying a resurge in popularity, and so I suppose I got lucky in my timing, but it's something. It's the genre I've always loved, you know. So it's kind of natural that I'd go back to it, you know, from my pop days, you know.
I suppose in a way you're sort of the modern day Daniel O'Donnell. You've made Irish music cool, but I wonder when I look at you, is it because you're a nice piece of trouser that the ladies like you, or is it your music?
Oh, nice. I don't know. I would like to think it's the music now. You know, I'm hardly a male model. You know, so I'd like to think it's the songs I'm releasing and the shows we're putting on. You know, but yeah, no. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That's the reason, anyway.
One observation from your website: there seems to be a lot of shots of you with your back to the camera. Did nobody tell you which direction they were taking the pictures?
You're better off seeing my back, maybe.
I wonder what it's like being you stood on the stage with your guitar singing, because there's something you do, isn't there, that certainly resonates with the audience. Is that a thrilling feeling?
Yeah, it is. I mean, at the concert show, I do an acoustic set that's just me and the guitar and a spotlight, and I think, you know, for a lot of people, it's the highlight of the show, and it just kind of, it's very intimate, and, you know, you can get across the lyrics and tell the story of the song, and, you know, I think it just focuses the audience, and, as I say, it's the kind of, the intimate part of the show, you know.
So you're saying on your website you're sort of defining Irish music, but you're redefining it really, aren't you? Because you're making it palatable. It's a bit like what Russell Watson and Alfie Boe have done to classical music. You've made it accessible to people who probably don't want tiddly-die, tiddly-dee music. Was that deliberate, or is this just who you are and it's just a coincidence?
Well, it's just, I suppose it's a mixture of, you know, I'm writing a lot of my own material, which is something, I suppose, that wasn't really done for a good while on the Irish country music scene, you know. So now I could be offending a few people by saying that, but I think, you know, I was the first to kind of consistently come out with my own songs and for them to be kind of received well, you know, for a while. So I think that kind of defined it a little bit and gave me my own kind of stamp on the scene. And as well as that, you know, our show, you kind of hit on it there a little bit, where it has something for everybody, really. So we're kind of opening the doors to country music, which is the basis of the show, but at the same time there's folk, there's pop, there's trad, Irish trad, there's rock and roll, you know, there's a bit of everything in there, you know. So even if you're not 100% a country fan or whatever, you know, we like to think you could come along and have a great night, you know.
Do you wonder why I mean, there are so many artists who email me every day who are trying to break through, who seemingly can't. It's a tough business to make money in, to sell albums and to fill theatres. Have you worked out why you've sort of jumped the queue of so many?
Well, I think I've a bit of experience, I suppose. I was in a boy band for a good few years as well, and signed to Warner when I was 17, and I've been gigging since I was 12. So I've come across a lot of people and a lot of things in the industry, and I think you learn as you go along. And I think the most important thing is that I didn't imitate anyone, I suppose, you know. So there was no one that I went and went, all right, well, I'm going to do exactly what he does now, and we'll see if it works, because more than likely it won't work, in my short experience. But, you know, I think in general you just have to kind of do your own thing, and luckily it was well received. I mean, I for example, I mean, I had my debut single. It's an original song called God's Plan, and pretty much everybody in the industry told me not to release it because it was an original and people wouldn't take to it, you know. They'd prefer to hear a kind of a song they know first and are familiar with or whatever, and blah blah. But I said no, I think it's good enough, and etc etc. And so sometimes you have to take chances, and, you know, luckily that chance paid off and I haven't looked back.
It's a bit sad, isn't it, really, that there is no room for new artists anymore and new music. I mean, we can't just keep remaking the old ones again and again and again. It's got to move forward. Do you think that's going to change, or is it just that nobody's got any balls anymore to give anyone a chance?
Well, I think, there are new artists making it, of course, but I can only really speak from my, myself and my experience, really. And I think there's a lot of emphasis these days on getting deals and getting the backing and getting this and that and the other. But in my scene, I just literally had to go back to scratch, really. And we sat at home and I got single CDs printed up and I sent it out to every DJ I knew and put them in the envelopes and wrote a little press release. And sometimes you have to let the music do the talking, and I my manager, it's always funny, sometimes we have these kind of discussions. He's all into promotion and he's all into this and that and the other, and I come from a different school where it's like a great song can beat all promotion, so it's to me, promotion is great, don't get me wrong, and it gets you out there, but if you don't have the songs to back it up, it's not worth anything, so
I've always said there can be all the PRs in the world, but you can't fake it with the public. They'll either like it or they won't.
Exactly.
It's interesting, when I look back at your career, you mentioned it earlier, we have a lot in common. I was in a boy band as well. You were in a group called D-Side. I was in a group called Backside. That didn't go so well. What was that like then, being in a boy band? Because, it looks glamorous from the outside. Is it just one big slog of promotion and appearing to look like you're enjoying it more than you actually are?
I suppose you could look back. There was definitely negatives to it, we had a great time, looking back. I kind of grew up in the band, really, and 5 Irish lads in London let loose, it was good crack. But it was hard work as well. Signed to a major, and we did 3 or 4 heavy single releases, and that is, as you know, a lot of radio tours, a lot of performances, a lot of, so you're pretty much 20-hour days for a long time, maybe a couple of months or whatever. So at a time, and then you're touring different countries, you're in and out, and you're recording in America, recording Denmark, you name it, all over. It was a good experience. The one thing I suppose I didn't like about it was the control factor of the music, and it's something even a lot of pop acts will say, or a lot of younger, I suppose, bands or boy bands to say, we chose this single, whatever. In reality, I suppose they didn't really. You're pretty much told what your next single is going to be, and which I kind of look back a little bit with regret, but at the same time, I'm a firm believer in a lot of things happen for a lot of reasons, and here I am now, and I'm pretty much my own boss when it comes to everything, so maybe that kind of time has stood to me,
Extraordinary. And of course, when you're in a boy band, you get the attention of the ladies. How does that feel, being a sex symbol? You sort of played it down earlier, but it's got to be relatively sexy being in a boy band, hasn't it?
Yeah, and we've a very, very young following as well in the country scene as well. So it's kind of, I suppose it's back to those days a little bit. We get a good following, and I don't know. I don't think about it too much, to be really honest. At the end of the day, they might think, or you might think it's a sex symbol or whatever, but you wouldn't be in a position to be regarded as one if you weren't singing or you weren't up on the stage, So I always tell the story, when I wasn't singing or whatever, I was never ever chatted up or anything. So it's funny, I was never noticed in nightclubs, and now it's great, because I'm a singer, it's fantastic.
Stick a spotlight on somebody, give them a guitar, it's amazing.
Exactly, yeah, they love it. I love a guy with a guitar. But sure, look, you take it as a bit of fun as well, and I do. Look, I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't enjoy it. But at the end of the day, it's I suppose a fine balance between image and music,
Yeah. And keeping that integrity. I suppose the best compliment I can give you is I found your music to be very uplifting. I guess that's intentional. I came away feeling happier than I did when I started. That's a great gift from a musician. Again, does that say more about your disposition than the music you're playing? Was that intentional?
Yeah, it very much is intentional. We always say, some people would regard country music as being, I suppose, the sad story or whatever. But I think the Irish element to it, a lot of their songs would be, and it's what I grew up with, with that traditional, fast music, and you can hear that influence a lot of my songs. It's a bit of what would you? I don't know how to say it, to describe it. In Ireland we would probably say a bit of get up and go or whatever. That kind of drive in the music. And when people hear it, they want to get up out of their seats and they want to tap their foot, or they want to dance, or they want to sing along, or a lot of the songs have that element. And I think that's just what I grew up with. So I know nothing else really. That's my natural. If you ask me to sit down in front of you now and write a song, that's probably what I would come up with, you know. Yeah, and like, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, some of my biggest songs are emotional songs, and they're slow songs or whatever. But you know, in general, you know, I think people like to, as you say, like, you know, when people listen to my album, I like them to come away happier than when they before they listen to it or whatever. So
yeah, if you're having to put the Samaritan's number in your program, you're probably doing something wrong, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, exactly. And more important, I think, as well as that, it's important to reproduce on stage what you've done in the studio. You know, too many times I suppose I've seen bands as well where like amazing albums and then really nice and, you know, emotional and whatever, and to listen to, and then you see them live and it's like it's just a constant stream of slow songs, and you're kind of going you know, you were great to listen to for an album, but I don't know about the live show. So it's important to kind of have a good balance on both, you know.
Exactly. Now you're touring the UK, which is extraordinary. I mean, you've had some wonderful accolades, Entertainer of the Year and Album of the Year. I mean, it's going really well. Are you nervous about getting on stage on a big tour like this, or is this the dream? Is this what you've been building to all your life?
Yeah, so I think you don't think about these things because it's just been a long time coming. Like, it's not like an overnight success or anything like that. Like, I've been working on the country scene now for maybe it's about 4.5 years since I sent out my debut single. So it's been happening kind of at a lovely pace, you know what I mean? So nothing's ever come and we've gone, oh dear, you know, I've never been overwhelmed. And as well as that, the experience I've had, I suppose, with the pop band and being on Top of the Pops, all the big TV shows, there's nothing that comes in that I go like, oh, you know, I'm not sure whether I'm able for it or ready for it, you know. So that's a nice feeling in a way, because straight away you can just get out on the stage. And don't get me wrong, I'd probably be a bit nervous, and it's more nervous about sound or, you know, that type of thing, if anything goes wrong with the sound. But once the few first lines are sang, I think you kind of relax in the crowd, or you have to remember, I suppose, the crowd are there to see you, like they're not there to put you down, you know. So that's something I always remember, you know, and tell the younger artists as well when they're singing.
Yeah, it's a good starting point when they've paid to come to see you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
A bit.
Exactly.
I think it's also quite humbling. I mean, this may surprise you, Derek, but I mean, I have been fired from every radio station I've mostly been at. I think when you've had it and lost it and got it again, it does mean more, because you appreciate that it could be taken away at any second. As you say with the boy band, when you've done the top, you're never going to be afraid of it. You're only going to embrace it if you ever get it again. That's
it, you know, and that's it. I mean, I enjoy every TV show I do, every big gig I do. I enjoy it because I just think, as you say, not in a pessimistic way, but it just might not happen again, you know. And so it's just, that's life, you know. So you just enjoy every moment, and I do, you know. And people say, oh, you know, you could say like, oh, he's been cheesy or whatever, cliche or whatever, but I genuinely do, because it was a second crack at the whip, as you say, and I'm very, very privileged and lucky to be where I am, you know.
And much deserved. You absolutely deserve it. And of course, speaking to me today must be also one of the greatest thrills of your career. I mean...
Oh, it'll go in the book. Don't you worry. It'll be in the book.
You don't need to patronise me. I know my place. Hey, listen, it's been great talking to you. And I'm such a big fan, because what you do is inspired. You go on stage and you just be you, with great tunes and a great band behind you and a great feel to your show. I wish you all the best with the brand new album. You can find out more about the tour. Give us your website for the tour dates.
Yeah, it's DerekRyanMusic.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at the same, Derek Ryan Music, and Facebook as well. So
right. Really nice to talk to you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.